Any questions? Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to ask you, what do you consider the biggest impediment on sustainability of wealth?
Yeah, you
If
are
you can
absolutely
define,
right. I
if you
did
can
not
define.
emphasize it sufficiently, but I say it here, the main constraint to sustainability is the different objectives by individuals, groups, organizations, and nations, and the fact that the pursuit of self-interest by one of them may be against the sustainability. If I give you an example, developed countries that have strategic trade policies, like the common agricultural policy of the EU, like, for example, the US and the EU subsidizing and helping Boeing and Airbus, I think they are major constraints to sustainability, these ones. On the other hand, I believe that you could justify some strategic trade policies of developing countries in the context of leveling the playing field and sort of arguments related to infant industry, infant entrepreneur, etc., etc. So I don't accept blanket statements to the effect that it should always be free trade. It should be free trade on the part of the developed nations and not free trade on the part of the developing nations, but for the benefit of both the developed and the developing nations in the context of promoting sustainable wealth creation.
Christo, I'm very, very interested in this presentation, and because you touch a lot of things that are very important for me also concerning my research work. And I would like to make just 2 points. I don't know if it's really questions, but it's points that I think that are quite important, at least for me. You make a connection, very interesting connection between entrepreneurship and the film as the initial point, the start point for the film. And this is extremely interesting because indeed we have, from theoretical point of view, a missing link in this level. We have all the, let's say, the theories of the entrepreneur, which are generally individualistic ones, Austrian, neo-Austrian theories. Very few attempts to combine both, force, for example, but in my sense, it's more looking the firm through the entrepreneur than a combination, really new synthesis of both. So we have a theoretical problem because we have, let's say, individualistic approaches concerning the entrepreneur and more or less holistic approaches by nature concerning the organization. Do you have something more to say about that? Because I'm really wondering about these connections, how bridging the gap from a theoretical point of view between the two levels. This is one point. The second is that, I agree with your proposition to see the firm as a combination of co-specialized to complementary assets, creating capabilities to create markets and make profit, to talk simply. But maybe it is a dimension that you did not develop. It's that this combination contains very conflicting elements. That means that it's not just a peaceful process of combination of passive assets. And even if we don't adopt the classical contradiction between capital and work and labor, but even authors like Simon Seiert-Marx have talked about the conflictual nature of the organization. And I think that maybe it would be interesting to add, let's say, an institutional dimension, how this conflicting nature has, let's say, attenuated in some conditions, and maybe go up to the commons and the institutional nature of the organization in the Commosian sense, indeed, in order to explain how this conflicting system of human resources, of actives, assets, and so on, can function in order to produce profits.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, they're both extremely good and interesting points. On the first one, it is true that what we are trying to do in this article is to bridge entrepreneurship theory and the theory of the firm. Now, the first person to do it properly and well, actually not first, there are two people who have done exceptionally good job on this. Mark Casson is the one, and the second is Ulrich Witt. They have both done exceptionally good work on this. I mean, where we are taking this further, in my view, is to link it directly with appropriability, motivating organization, and to link it directly and stronger with the issue of market co-creation as a necessary element of appropriability. So I think this is the extension, but it is an extension of extant work. I mean, we are not reinventing the wheel here. They are innovators in the field that have already done a very good job. But I think we are taking it a step further. So I'm glad you identified this. On the issue of the other issue, it's critical. It's critical. I just point to it. It is at least a separate article or a separate book, and I can at the very least say that I have an article in Organization Science 2007 that does exactly that. Emphasize the point that it's not just inter-firm competition that it is important, and it's emphasized in the work of Porter and everybody, and in IO and in economics, but it's also fundamentally intra-firm rivalry, and especially between capital and labor, let's say, the traditional Marxist idea. But it's not just in Marx, it's also in Sayert and Marx, and Simon and all of these people, but Simon and Sayert and Marx have emphasized it. So what I have done in this article is actually to combine intra-firm rivalry with inter-firm competition and create some sort of matrix that shows which firms are successful and what type of innovation is engendered through the coexistence of strong and weakness on these issues. But of course, this is the big question. How do you manage to align incentives and address the problem of intra-firm rivalry?